Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 205 of the podcast. And in this episode of the podcast, I'm talking about the Brooklyn Nets getting swept in the first round of the postseason. The Nets have been swept in the first round, something that no NBA fan could have imagined in their wildest dreams. We all knew going into the playoffs for the 7-seeded Nets to beat the 2-seeded Celtics, their two stars would need to play out of their minds. And it's a huge understatement to say that neither did. In the 4 games against the Celtics, Kevin Durant averaged 26 points per game on only 38% shooting and committed a horrendous amount of turnovers, 21. And Kyrie Irving started off hot against his former team. He was on fire, scoring 39 points in game 1, but in the final 3 games scored only 46 points combined. These two are the biggest reasons this team got swept. This is a top 5 and arguably top 10 player. They did not play to their potential. They were liabilities on the court at all times in this series. Going into the postseason, we would have all thought that it was their role players that would have been the reason that the Nets went home, not their 2 biggest stars. Again, that is not an understatement to say that the biggest reason the Nets are sitting at home right now is because of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I mean, this is the Kevin Durant that most pundits believe is the best player in the NBA. A lot of people have said he's the best player in the NBA over LeBron James. I have never felt that way. I think right now the best player in the NBA is between Giannis Antetokounmpo and Steph Curry. I don't think it's Kevin Durant because clearly he's not even at his best. This isn't even the best Kevin Durant. The best Kevin Durant was the one who played on the Golden State Warriors. I don't think this Brooklyn Nets version of Kevin Durant is his best version. It's the same reason why I don't think LeBron James is the best player in the NBA right now. We're not seeing the best LeBron James, and in this postseason and with the Brooklyn Nets, we're not seeing the best Kevin Durant. All that being said, Kyrie for me deserves more of the blame than Durant. He put his team in an impossible situation with being unvaccinated, and I for one 100% agree with ESPN Stephen A. Smith saying the Nets cannot give Irving a long-term deal ever. He's the worst thing you can be in sports, unreliable. I love his game. His handles are lethal, but he's living off of that one ring he won with LeBron James. And I think the absolute worst thing he got from playing with LeBron is this attitude that the regular season doesn't matter. It does in the NBA. If you're going to be a team who wins the NBA Finals, at some point in the regular season, your team needs to play at an elite level. The Brooklyn Nets never played at an elite level. And as a Celtics fan, I've seen this before from Kyrie, where he says the team is going to turn it on during the postseason and all of their problems are going to go away. That does not work for the most part in professional sports. And it only worked when Kyrie was playing with LeBron James. I mean, we as NBA fans can say the NBA regular season means nothing, but at the end of the day, the lowest seeded team to ever win the NBA championship was the 94-95 Rockets. They were the number 6 seed in the whole conference, but that was a team that also were repeat champions. They had won the year before. This Nets team was the 7 seed in the East, and oh, by the way, they had to play in the play-in tournament. I don't think we will ever live in a world where the team that has to play in the play-in tournament is going to go all the way and win the NBA Finals. I am going to state that right here and right now. If your team has to compete in the play-in tournament, I give you 0.0 chance of winning the NBA Finals. KD and Kyrie are not the only ones getting blamed. Former Hall of Fame point guard and current Nets head coach Steve Nash is getting mocked for his lack of adjustments in the series. I, for one, was shocked they never played LaMarcus Aldridge, who averaged almost 13 points per game for the Nets in the regular season. He did go to Blake Griffin in game 3, and he hit some threes, but he needed more offense from the bigs. Andre Drummond averaged less than 4 points per game in the series. Nick Claxton averaged over 10, but also missed 10 straight free throws in game 4. They needed a lot more offense from their bigs, and I think they could have gotten that from LaMarcus Aldridge. Again, I don't know if he wasn't healthy. Nobody has reported reported he wasn't, they just benched him and never gave a reason why. The Nets have done this before as a franchise. They have hired a Hall of Fame point guard who has no coaching experience to coach a star-studded team. Remember, they did this with Jason Kidd, who was coaching a team with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Joe Johnson, and Darren Williams, and that team, like this one, underachieved. There are some Hall of Famers who make decent head coaches. Lenny Wilkins, Larry Bird, but you also get some really bad ones. Isaiah Thomas, Magic Johnson. I think the ones who achieve are the former players who were role players, like Rick Carlisle. He was on that 86 Celtics team, but he wasn't the reason that that team was winning. He just watched and observed. He knows about winning basketball. He doesn't watch other players and go, well, they're not as good as me. I think the issue with some of these Hall of Fame coaches, as they look at the players they coach and go, that guy is not as good as I was. No offense to Steve Nash, I think the only reason he is winning basketball games is because he's coaching Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I don't think he's bringing a whole lot to the table. And everyone is talking about him being fired. I want to talk about this. Why does Steve Nash want this job? What is he going to get out of it? I think he should be enjoying retirement. I think he should be like an NBA analyst on some TV show. Like, that's what I want from Steve Nash. He is getting this job that is full of headaches, and now he's getting all the blame for all the chaos that happened around the Brooklyn Nets. This is not the dream job that he signed up for. Then, of course, you have Ben Simmons, and everyone, including their grandma, have opinions on what exactly is going on with him. He played 0 games this past season for the Sixers and Nets, and I'm with a lot of people. Ben Simmons looks bad right now, but so does Sean Marks, the GM of the Nets, for putting his faith in him. I blame Marks for giving James Harden what he wanted and not doing what's best for his team. If the Nets had Harden, they would not have been swept in the first round. Would he have been mad still being on the team? Sure, but I think Harden would have still played, or the other option should have been trading Harden for multiple players. The only people who got what they wanted from the trade are Daryl Morey and James Harden. I'm also of the belief that even if they had Ben Simmons, this would not have been a championship level basketball team. They're not deep enough. Maybe if they had Ben Simmons, they'd get out of the first round. But if you add Ben Simmons to a team that got swept in the first round, I don't think that makes them a title contending team. Everyone wants to talk about Durant, Kyrie, and Simmons. What no one wants to talk about is all the talent that used to be on the Nets that's now on other teams. Spencer Dinwiddie is on the Mavs. Jarrett Allen and Karis LeVert are on the Cavs. All 3 of these players were on the Nets last season. Yeah, Dinwiddie was hurt, but if you have those 3 still on the roster instead of Patty Mills and Goran Dragic, the Nets would be in a much better place. Dinwiddie averaged almost 14 points per game this season and would have been able to fill the spot left by Kyrie being unvaccinated. Jarrett Allen is 24 years old and is a walking double-double. You moved on from him for Harden and he's gone. What a steal for the Cavs. And LeVert, when healthy, is the perfect 6th man. I do find this to be a recurring issue on veteran-laden basketball teams. Like the star players LeBron, they want to play with veterans and the teams get rid of all the young players. I mean, the Lakers, they now have Carmelo Anthony and Dwight Howard. They were a lot younger last year. And the same thing has happened with the Brooklyn Nets. Last year, they had, again, Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, and Jarrett Allen, and in a way have replaced them with Patty Mills, Goran Dragic, and Andre Drummond. Dragic is still very good. I like Patty Mills, but they are not better than Dinwiddie and LeVert. And then with Andre Drummond, I really don't understand his NBA career. He was a walking double-double with the Detroit Pistons, but then he has been an afterthought with the Lakers and Sixers, and now with the Brooklyn Nets. Jarrett Allen is the perfect NBA big man for modern times, and he's only going to continue to get better and better. If the Nets still had Dinwiddie, LeVert, and Allen, they would be in a much better position than they are right now. I mean, when I think about the Nets, I think about the slow rebuild they were on. They had Kenny Atkinson, who I thought was a very good NBA head coach. They had D'Angelo Russell, who was finally looking like he's an NBA star. Now he doesn't look like that with the Timberwolves, but he did with the Nets. They had Karis LeVert LeVert. They had Jarrett Allen. They had Spencer Dinwiddie. They were a team on the rise. And then they gave up on that slow rebuild and brought in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And then those guys brought in Steve Nash. This might be the craziest thing I've ever said on this podcast, but I think it is legitimate to wonder if the Nets would have been in a better position than they are right now if they had kept Kenny Atkinson as the coach and kept D'Angelo Russell, Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen, and Spencer Dinwiddie, and just kept with their slow rebuild. Instead, they went for it all, and it has not paid off. I know it's crazy. I know when Kevin Durant wants to join your basketball team, you're going to let Kevin Durant join your basketball team. If Kyrie Irving wants to be on your basketball team, you're gonna let Kyrie Irving be on your basketball team. But the Nets had something good, and right now, they don't. The future of this team looks extremely bleak. They owe Ben Simmons over $100 million, and I don't know when he'll be back on the court. Kevin Durant is 33 and looked older against the Celtics, and Kyrie is the ultimate wild card. We value talent over everything in the NBA, and because of Durant and Irving, we overlook the team being a 7 seed and having to play in the play-in tournament. Moving forward, when a team shows us who they are, we need to believe them, stars or no stars. I mean, it's really crazy to think that the future of the Brooklyn Nets rests in the hands of Ben Simmons, who has played 0 basketball games for them since trading for him. I have no idea if he still wants to be a member of the Brooklyn Nets. He seems like he wants to play basketball, but you have to have serious doubts because he said he was going to play in that game 4 and he didn't play in that game 4. Then you have Durant and Irving, and you have to wonder, do they want to play with Ben Simmons? I thought Kyrie Irving's statements at the end of that series where he said him and Durant are still leading the organization, I thought that was laughable for a guy who only played 32 games in that regular season for the Nets. I don't like the odds of the Nets turning around for this simple reason. They are relying on Ben Simmons and Kyrie Irving. Those are not the guys you want to be relying on. Kyrie Irving is going to miss basketball games for one reason or another moving forward, and Ben Simmons, we have no idea if he's ever going to play the game of basketball again. I know that's hyperbole, but one has to wonder. And then when he does come back, is he going to be the same guy? Or is he going to be that Ben Simmons that struggled mightily in his last postseason appearance with the Philadelphia 76ers? We have no idea what we're going to get from Ben Simmons, and we have no idea when we're going to get Kyrie Irving. Those two players alone makes me feel bad about the future of the Nets and feel bad for Kevin Durant. He's in this situation because he chose this situation. He chose Brooklyn, and he chose to go there with Kyrie Irving. He's getting what he paid for with this move. He really is. I mean, this is what anyone could have expected when they decided to go with Kyrie Irving. I witnessed this as a fan of the Boston Celtics. Kyrie Irving is not reliable. He is going to miss basketball games for one reason or another. I think to change the fortune of the team, they need to think about trading Kyrie. I would look to see if Portland will swap Dame Lillard for him, or if Washington will trade Beal for Irving. Teams that are likely to deal for him are the ones who are on the verge of losing a superstar player and don't want to give up that star for nothing. KD needs to pair with a different star. I think the Nets should have tried to move on from Irving at the deadline instead of James Harden. I think KD and the Nets should have chosen Harden over Kyrie, and they should have traded Kyrie at the deadline. I love Irving's offensive game. I think he's one of the best offensive point guards I've ever seen. He hit one of the most clutch shots I've ever seen over Steph Curry to win the NBA Finals. I just do not like his career trajectory since that moment. Again, I witnessed it with the Boston Celtics. He told me and every Celtics fan that he was going to be a member of the Celtics. He was going to re-sign with the team, and then didn't, and never really gave a reason why. I mean, it's kind of cruel to say, but there's a small part in me that's happy it really hasn't worked out for him in Brooklyn. Again, nobody could have predicted the whole he's not going to choose to be vaccinated thing, but this is because of Kyrie. We all knew that it was going to blow up. It was probably going to blow up because of Kyrie Irving. If you're the Nets, you cannot double down on this mistake. You need to move on from Kyrie Irving. At least attempt to move on from him. And at the very least, Just let this contract play out. You cannot give this man a long-term deal. It is not going to work out for you. He is not going to remain loyal, and he is going to miss basketball games for dumb reasons. I'm a fan of his game, not his attitude. I also just expect Kevin Durant to be self-aware that this partnership with Kyrie Irving is not working out. I mean, this is the same Kevin Durant who walked away from Russell Westbrook. He said, this is not working out as us being a duo, and he moved on from him and he played with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. I want that Kevin Durant. I want him to say, this is not working out. We need to move on from this player. I want him to be self-aware. He was when he was with the Thunder and he left. He needs to do the exact same thing with the Nets. He needs to tell them, I need to be paired with another guy, a more reliable player, probably a two-way player. Another thing about Durant and Irving is they've played so few games together. Remember that first season with the Nets, Durant was injured and Irving played. Then this season you had the pandemic where Irving played in only 32 games during the regular season. They don't feel like a great duo. They feel like two great individual players. Another crazy thing about this is Durant left the Golden State Warriors and now the Warriors are better than the Nets. Nobody would have predicted that at the beginning of the season. We all thought the Nets were going to be far better than the Warriors. I think Durant should have chosen Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. I don't care about how he feels about Steve Kerr. I don't care about how he feels about Bob Myers. It would have been in Kevin Durant's best interest to be a member of the Golden State Warriors and not the Brooklyn Nets. Everyone was critical of Durant joining the Golden State Warriors. I think people should be more critical of him joining the Brooklyn Nets with Kyrie Irving. That has blown up in his face. I don't understand why we're critical of success. He had success with the Warriors. He won 2 championships. I don't care if it was a super stacked team. Durant won. Now with the Nets, he has those same expectations and it's not working out. That's how he should be criticized, for it not working out. And right now with the Brooklyn Nets, it's not working out. Brooklyn and the Lakers have far and away been the two most chaotic teams during the season, and we all waited for one or both of them to get their acts together, and it never happened. Kevin Durant was bounced in the first round for the first time in his career, and LeBron James has missed the playoffs for the second time in 4 seasons with the LA Lakers. That is wild to say out loud. It is very rare in their careers to be in the second round of the playoffs and to not have Kevin Durant and LeBron James there. I mean, it's kind of bad for basketball. You want to see these guys play in the biggest moments, but Kevin Durant did not show up in the first round, and LeBron James did not show up for the majority of the regular season. I think both of them will bounce back, but I do not expect either of them to win a title in their current situations with the Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, weirdly, LeBron and KD are in the exact same situation. For next year, for their teams to turn around, it has nothing to do with them. They are both still great players. They are going to show up. It's about their all-star teammates. For LeBron James, it's Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook. They have to be 1,000,000 times better next season for the Lakers to be title contenders. And for the Nets, it's all about Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons. If those guys play up to their potential, then the Nets can be great. But I would not bet on that at all. LeBron and Durant have played too many minutes in too many playoff games for them to carry franchises anymore. These teams need to make their lives easier. Think about it. A 33-year-old Kevin Durant could not have been in a worse situation. His 30-year-old superstar teammate missed games due to being unvaccinated, and the 25-year-old star that his team traded for didn't play in a single game. Durant deserves far better. Far and away, the craziest thing about the NBA postseason so far is the Brooklyn Nets have been the only team swept in the first round. That's embarrassing for the franchise. There's a small part of me that thinks the only thing this team is going to do to make things better is to blame Steve Nash, fire him, and replace him, and that will be the wrong thing to do. I think the right thing to do is to trade Kyrie Irving. I think you need to pair Kevin Durant with another star star player and hope that Ben Simmons comes back and plays like the old Ben Simmons. The Nets' window as a legitimate title contending basketball team is closing, and one has to wonder if it was ever opened at all. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Monday, so please rate, review, and subscribe.